Okay, first let's take a look at the sketch that I'm going to use for the layout today. I created the sketch. It's very simple. It has a row of circles or any type of shape that you want to use down one side of the layout with some journaling. And I'm using a 4x6 photo, but you could use a larger photo here and the title, or you could do 2 small photos, either way. The photo that I'm using is, as I say, a 4x6, and I want to do the title Red Door, and unfortunately I couldn't find any red chipboard. That seems to be the case. I have the hardest time finding red and thickers or other chipboard, so I've taken some unfinished chipboard here from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to paint that. And then I've got some thickers that I'm going to use for the rest of the title. The background I've selected is a piece of ledger paper from Basic Gray. You wouldn't have to use ledger paper. Of course, it's always nice to have those nice lines to work with, but I just thought it looked good with the photo, so that's why I chose the ledger. For the rest of the papers, I almost always work from my photos, so I'm going to be using some reds and yellows and maybe some gray if I have it. I'll probably end up more with black and green to pull out the colors of the photo, especially that red that I want to emphasize. And I did this sketch with the idea of using some of the paper pads. The 6x6 and 8x8 paper pads are really popular, as I understand right now, and my favorite are the October Afternoon 8x8 pads, but I also have some 6x6s. This is from My Mind's Eye. It's called Everyday Flair, and it has some wonderful small-scale prints that I know I'll be using several of these on the layout for those circles. And I've also already pulled several papers here from October Afternoon out of the different 8x8 pads. These are just a couple of the ones I'll be using, Campfire and Thrift Shop. I have several, and I keep those in a drawer all by themselves because they coordinate so well with each other, so I can mix collections. And I'm sure there'll be some other embellishments that I'll add along with the circles, but we'll just kind of see as we go along. Okay, I'm working on my title, dressing up my undressed chipboard because I need this to dry, so I thought I'd go ahead and do this next. First thing I always do with the chipboard that has been punched out is use a nail file to smooth off those little fobs that are on the edge, and I even keep a cut down version of a nail file to get inside the insides of E's and D's and B's and so forth. So I do that first, and then I paint it, and usually I paint it with paint. But I wanted a glossier finish to this, so I was going to have to go over it with glossy accents. And I remember a tip I found off of another YouTube video the other day, and I'll share this link on my blog. I've shared it before. It was about making shimmer paint. And I don't want this to shimmer, so there's 3 ingredients, and I'm only going to use 2 because I don't want to add the perfect pearls and make it shimmer. I just want it to be a nice glossy red. And so all I need to do to get red paint is to use a little bit of glossy accents, or you can use crystal effects too, and then some ink. And I'm using Riding Hood Reds from Stampin' Up. And I found I had to do several drops here to get a nice dark red. And just mix that up with a paintbrush till you get the color that you want. So I'm having to mix some more, so let's see if I get this the right. Or that looks a little bit dark. Yeah, it looks just a touch dark. Let's add just a little bit more glossy accents. I think that'll paint up nicely. And a pair of tweezers are essential. The only thing I found about this is, because I had used so much ink, it tended to puddle a little bit in the corners of my letters. I don't think that's going to hurt anything. I think it's going to give it a nice finish overall. Get that. Doing a very good job with the tweezers on this one. It's a good thing I'm not a surgeon, isn't it? Okay. Now, and I like to get my edges too. And that's where I need to clean up and make sure my ink doesn't puddle too much in those edges. But once these dry, I'll have some nice shiny letters with good red coloring and just a smidge of a textured effect, which I think kind of goes with the painted door that I'm going to be talking about in the journaling. For cutting your circles, you can use punches, Cricut, any other die cutting system. I use the Creative Memories cutters. I've had these now for over 10 years, and I've of course had to replace the blades, but they're still just a great cutting system in my opinion. And the way they work is you select a size, and you can cut on the inside of the circle or the outside of the circle to make various graduated sizes. There are 3 different sizes of blades, and there's a different distance on each blade between the blade and these little notches that fit in this groove. So if I want to cut out a design, I can center my circle over the design so I can see what I'm cutting. All I need is any kind of a cutting mat to cut it on, nothing, no glass or nothing special. I don't have to adhere the background paper to the mat to keep it from sliding. I just hold down my circle, fit the little prongs into the notches or into the groove there, and cut. Okay. And there's my design. So I did that for all of my circles. That's how I cut them, and I could use a different size blade to get, again, some graduated sizes. They do skip some sizes. They're not perfect in giving you every single size, but I've found them to be a really good way to cut circles. Okay, to get my pattern paper circles, before I cut really a lot of pattern paper, I decided to experiment a little bit with the sizes, and I'm going to show you my first effort at it. I took a photograph of it. The circles were too big. So I didn't really like those, so I came back and I cut some smaller circles, and that gave me a good idea of the arrangement, of how I wanted to place things, and then I could start fitting in the regular circles. So it also gave me an opportunity to figure out where I wanted to put my journaling, which is going to go right around here. And I'm going to type my journaling and print it on the background, so I need to do that before I put my other circles on. So let me go and do the journaling, and then we'll come back and talk about the arrangement of the circles. I have my circles laid out in general where I want them based on where I had them when I was playing around with them before and getting the sizes cut. A little tip, if you have to move everything off like I did to do the journaling or stitching or whatever you need to do, stamping whatever to the background of your layout when you're placing things, if you take a picture of what you've done on your digital camera before you take everything apart, and it's real easy to refer to. In my case, I've got everything back, and one other step that I did, I went ahead and edged all of these with antique linen, distress ink, and went ahead and adhered the 2 layers together. But one of the things I'm not real happy about, this is a little heavy up here at the top, and I think I'm going to move some things around just a little bit, which I can do since I haven't adhered anything down yet. Okay, that might be better. I want some of these circles to hang off the edge, and they'll get trimmed, top and the bottom, when I get everything glued in place. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I know I'm going to be adding some buttons. I don't know for sure what all kinds of embellishments that I want to add here to this. I think I had a gold button here when I was playing earlier. Yeah, something like that. Still not sure about this one. I like that better. Okay. Alright, and just before I start gluing things down, I want to see how my letters look. These were the letters that I did earlier, and get some nice gloss on those from that Crystal Effects or Glossy Accents that you use as a base when you're painting. And I'll have my stickers that I'm spelling out door, and when I went to this pack that's been pretty well used, one of the things I was missing was an R. So to get my R, I had gobs of U's left. So I took a U and turned it upside down and then just cut off this edge, and that gave me an R that looked like the R's that had come out of the package. Okay. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that arrangement of things, and I'm ready to start gluing everything down. Kind of slide these things aside. Once I'm happy with where the photo is going to lie, the way I do it is just lift up the photo and put quite a bit of adhesive from the middle over, and that way it will stay in place, and as I work with these other things, that's not going to move. So I'll put the circles down, I'll glue those down, and get the letters down and some embellishments, and we'll be back with close to completed page. Everything is glued down now, and I've added the buttons. Sewed a couple of those on, and one of them I added with a glue dot. I've added a paper clip up here near the journaling. I experimented with some color down in this corner. I looked at some possible stickers or some ribbon. I love to put ribbon on my layout, but it was just too distracting. It just took the focus away from the photo and the circle embellishment. So I decided not to do that, but I do want to add just a little bit more so that not everything is over on one side. I'm going to be using some stitching stamps. These are from hot off the press, and they're called stamp stitches, and there are a lot of different designs here, and they make nice patterns to add to a layout, and I've chosen a real simple design, and I'm going to stamp it in Sahara Sand, which is a very soft color from Stampin' Up, and I want it to go over my photo but not extend beyond the photo. So let's ink that up in Sahara Sand. I need to get this down here where I can see it. Okay, that adds a little bit of extra going on over the photo. And then I'm going to need to put the date on this somewhere, and I have a set from Stampin' Up! That has a lot of office kinds of things. It has date, and it has all kinds of different stamps that are related to office things. It's a discontinued set, but there are all kinds of sets like that out on the market. And I'm going to put that down here underneath door at an angle on purpose, and I'll fill in my initials and the date that I took the photo. And that pretty much wraps up that layout. My sketch. Okay. So we have the photo, the circle embellishment, some journaling on the side, and our title. And of course you could add more embellishment, whatever you felt like your layout needed. My background, my grid paper gave me a little bit of extra stuff going on already. So I think that's it. I do have one other layout that I created using the same sketch, but I turned the sketch on its side. So let's take a look at that. I turned it and flipped it. So let's take a look at that one. Here's the other page that I did using the sketch, but I took the sketch and I turned it this way and brought the journaling over here and the title actually over the top of the photo. And once I got into this, I realized I was going to be using two photos. I had another, I thought I just had this one, but then I had a supporting photo that went with this outing that we did. So instead of the circles, I did an argyle pattern using some diamond shapes. I thought that sort of, the sun kind of coming out there looked a little bit like a diamond shape. And just kept it pretty simple with the journaling on the bottom. I spritzed or actually used some white paint and flecked a little bit of white paint on the background paper before I put everything together. I have done a separate video on creating this kind of argyle pattern, if you like that, and otherwise it uses, again, that same sketch just turned on its side in a pretty simple layout. Thanks for joining me.